Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the next webinar in our What's New series. In today's webinar, we'll cover some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that give us a bit of an insight into the future. Don't feel like you need to take notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar and a follow-up fact sheet later today. Also, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please do feel free to drop those into the Q&A box at the side at any time, and we'll also have a bit of time at the end dedicated for any questions you may have. So let's take a look at the agenda for today. In today's What's New webinar, we'll be covering Excel Live for Teams meetings, collaborative annotations, intelligent cameras for hybrid meetings, updates to Teams chat with a new polls experience, Power BI reports for PowerPoint, which are now live. We covered that briefly just a couple of months ago, but they are now live, so we're ready to cover those again and make sure you can all access them. And Microsoft Viva Engage, which is the next addition to the Microsoft Viva suite. Finally, we'll be looking at the Bedrock Security Review Workshop and what's next in terms of this webinar series. Let's start with a quick welcome for those of you who may not have joined us before. My name's Jennifer Benge and I'm the Marketing Manager at Bedrock. Bedrock is an IT managed service provider and Microsoft Gold partner. This means that most of the IT we implement is based on the Microsoft stack, which includes Microsoft 365, Teams, Azure, SharePoint, etc. We're also experts in secure, resilient networks and managed IT solutions where high performance is absolutely critical. So we work with organisations that have some of the highest security requirements in the UK. The most important thing we want to achieve, no matter what your organisation does, is to help your business grow better. We do this with the help of our 8 rocks. These 8 rocks, as you can see on the screen there, are skills, data, investment, strategy, backup, security, quality of service, and finally, the focus of today's webinar, as these are all collaboration tools, is collaboration. Many people have tools such as Teams and Microsoft 365 apps within their organisation, but aren't using them to their full potential. So we're here to help you get the best value out of what you're already paying for and perhaps not fully utilising. So let's move on to our first topic of the day. I just wanted to quickly cover off what is Microsoft Inspire. So this is an annual event held by Microsoft where all the global partners gather together to hear about new releases that Microsoft have been working on. It gives us a chance to learn a bit more about these technologies before they're made publicly available. In past years, this has been a face-to-face event, usually somewhere in the US. But obviously, due to recent events, this has been turned into a virtual event. So this now happens virtually annually, and it just gives us a chance to learn about all the new technologies that are coming out and share those with you. So the first topic that was covered at Microsoft Inspire this year was the Excel Live option for Teams meetings. So this is part of an overall package that Microsoft are looking at the moment, where they're working towards making all Office apps more interactive within the Teams environment. This already exists for PowerPoint, where you can use the Present in Teams option to show you an interactive version of your presentation within your Teams meeting. Live Share gives developers the opportunity and ability to take third-party apps beyond the passive screen sharing option, and it enables participants to co-watch, co-edit and co-create in Teams. So the next app to get this live share functionality is Excel. Until now, if someone's sharing an Excel spreadsheet in a meeting with you, you've just been able to passively watch updates happening on a spreadsheet during the meeting. Or you've been able to open your own version and try to follow along with that version, but you're risking missing out what everyone else is looking at in the live option in the meeting. This aims to correct that by allowing everyone to see and co-edit the same Excel sheet during the meeting itself. So here's how it's going to work. in the share option within Teams, you just scroll down and there's an option there for Excel Live. You can see at the moment in the screenshot, it's a preview option. And here you'll see a list of your recent Excel workbooks. Select the workbook you want to share. You'll be asked to share access to the file with meeting participants and click the share button. Once you've selected that workbook, you get this pop-up just confirming that you want to share it. So once you click share, you'll be able to go ahead and do that and share with the rest of the meeting. After sharing access, everyone in the meeting can now edit the Excel file directly from the meeting screen in Teams. The Teams meeting window now becomes a canvas for all the participants to work together. You can follow what the presenter's doing, so you can, instead of opening your own version, you can just stick with the presenter's screen and follow along what's happening there. You can also interact and edit the workbook without ever leaving the meeting screen. So you don't even need to have the Excel app running on your device at this time. You'll just be able to access that entire spreadsheet through the Teams meeting itself. You can also access the Excel Live experience from Excel on the web. So for example, if you had a workbook open that you wanted to share in a Teams meeting, all you do is similar to how you do at the moment with a PowerPoint and you want to share it in a Teams meeting, there will be a button in the top right corner that just says share to Teams. And you'll be able to click another option there that says work together in Teams. And that's all there is to it. That will be available within that meeting for everyone to co-collaborate on. So obviously there's a number of positives that could come out of this. It means that everything's simplified. You're not all having to open the same spreadsheet at the same time and try and keep an eye on what other edits other people are making. You'll all be able to work directly on the same spreadsheet together. You'll be able to save time by not having to catch up after meetings. If everyone can do their input during the meeting itself, you'll be able to consolidate everyone's input into that one single spreadsheet at the same time. And just kind of getting everyone involved as well. So if everyone has their own input that they can put into that single spreadsheet, they can do that right there and then, while you can all collaborate and chat about it at the same time. You can see on the screenshot on this screen here, you'll be able to see who is editing in which cell. So there's the different coloured dots and different names show who's editing which cell and who's doing which work in which place on the spreadsheet. I've just noticed there's a question come in on this. So once you've shared the Excel file with the participants, do they continue to have access after the meeting? So I think this is very early days, so I will have to double check this for you. But I think it will work the same as if they already have access to that file, you're editing this file within the SharePoint version. So anyone who already has access to this file will see the updated edits that you've just made within that meeting. If the person that you're collaborating with during the meeting does not have access to your files on your SharePoint, I will have to double check if they would still retain their access after the meeting itself. That's a good question, Christopher. I will get back to you on that and let you know as soon as I have any update on that. So as I said, this is early days. This is coming out by the end of August. So at the moment it's in public preview and it will be available to everyone in that public preview option by the end of August, so you can start using it. I think it's something, again, similar to how Microsoft worked with the PowerPoint Live option. It's going to be built on over time. So there'll probably be more features being added to this as we go forward. We'll be answering those security questions like that one that just came up. Who has access to this spreadsheet after the meeting? And that will be all covered as the months go on and this is rolled out in the public. So we'll keep you updated if there's any other updates on that before it becomes completely publicly available. And as I said, there'll be more going forwards in terms of updates and additions, I'm sure. Sort of following on with the same theme, this was also announced at Microsoft Inspire this year, is collaborative annotations. So again, this is just getting people involved within a Microsoft Teams meeting, being able to have their input. Everyone within that meeting can have the input on the same document at the same time. So you can see here it's being used to edit an image. And you can see in each of the mouse options, there's a there's a view that shows you the name and the colour of the person who is doing the update. So this example shows you how you can allow all meeting participants to draw, type or react on the content being shared in the meeting using tools powered by the Microsoft Whiteboard. So Microsoft Whiteboard, we've had it for a while, it's been around, but this is now being used in live updates in a meeting. During desktop screen sharing and with annotation mode enabled, meeting attendees will see the annotations toolbar and can start adding annotations and get input to drive the discussion. So if you're planning some kind of event, I'm not sure what these people here are planning, but if you're trying to organise something over a meeting, you can all have your input and draw onto the same image at the same time. This one is now generally available, so you can start doing this straight away. While you're sharing your full screen in a meeting, all you need to do is start annotation in the meeting controls at the upper middle area of the screen. Use the same button to turn it off again if you wanted to. The red outline around the screen will turn blue and all participants will be able to see the Microsoft Whiteboard toolset at the top of the shared screen. Everyone in the meeting can then begin annotating straight away, and the red pen tool is the default selection there. To begin annotating, just choose one of the tools in the Whiteboard toolset, something like sticky notes, for example, and start typing on or drawing on the screen. Collaborative cursors, which are the cursors that show the name of the person who's drawing or writing at that point, they're there by default, but you can also turn those off if you wanted to, if you're finding the larger icons a bit distracting. Okay, next up, something we don't often cover in these updates is hardware, new hardware releases. But I just wanted to do a quick cover note of some of the intelligent cameras that are now available for hybrid meetings. With so many of us now working either completely remotely or with hybrid options, it's important to make sure everyone's feeling involved during meetings, and you can do that with some of these new cameras that are available. Intelligent capture cameras use AI technology to focus in on the person speaking, whilst also giving a full room view. So for example, we use one of these at Bedrock, which shows you, as you can see on the bottom left of the screen, that whole wide angle of the full room for anyone who's actually in the office at the time, as well as individual cameras on each of the people talking in the meeting. You then also, as usual, have the cameras of the people who are working from home. So everyone kind of feels engaged, feels involved in that meeting, no matter where they're working from. As you can see in this example on the screen as well, when the lady stands up to work on the whiteboard, the camera also zooms out automatically using AI technology to just show the full view of what she's working on. It will also highlight the name of the person who's talking or the camera's focused on at that moment. So I'm not going to talk about any sort of specific hardware in terms of this, but it's just worth looking around. If you are finding yourself doing more and more hybrid meetings, it is important that you make sure everyone's feeling engaged with that, and trying to use the technology that is available to keep people on board. Next up, we've got Microsoft Forms, which is now being called Microsoft Polls. The Forms app within Teams is being replaced by a new app called Polls. This makes it much easier for people to find and add polls to their chats and meetings. You'll be able to see the Polls app when searching in the Teams App Store, which is you find that via the sidebar or the top navigation bar when you're in a meeting, or from the message extension flyout menu. You can now see a list of your recently created polls, so that you can reuse past polls created in meetings and save time. So rather than having to recreate the same poll over and over again, if you're using one type of poll quite regularly, it will be saved for you, so you can use it over and over again across different meetings. In addition to these updates, a new poll animation appears after people have entered a response, which provides a dynamic confirmation that their votes have been successfully submitted. And poll results views have also been improved to make it more intuitive and easy to read the outcome of that poll vote. So just some quite simple updates there, but worth bearing in mind, if you are looking for a Microsoft form, it has now been called Microsoft Polls. So you might have to search for it in a slightly different way in the Teams App Store. and you'll be able to save those polls for use over and over again. Okay, so rewinding a little bit now to the June webinar, because I promised I would let you know when this feature was live, and it is now live and available. So I just thought I'd quickly cover this again because there was quite a lot of interest around this integration. So we all know we should be making data-driven decisions for our businesses, but the standard thing that you want to do, or you just generally do when you approach decision making, is you make a PowerPoint presentation to share with your team and drive that conversation. However, while you have data in a Power BI that is up to date, live and accurate, it is generally added to the presentation in the form of a screenshot. So that's not live, and it's stripped of any of the interactivity that it had whilst it was in Power BI. It also doesn't update. So you'll have to, if you're using that same presentation again, you'll have to keep updating that screenshot with the live information. So as a result, it's up to you to manually create new screenshots and keep your presentations up to date. Microsoft have announced an add-in that lets you add Power BIs and bookmarks to your slides and include the interactive experience of Power BI inside the presentation itself. With data storytelling, data will always be up to date in your slides, whether you're building a presentation or presenting it live to others. To use it, simply look for the Power BI button in the PowerPoint menu ribbon, or you may need to add it using the Get Add-ins button in the same menu. So simply go to the top of your PowerPoint menu, click Insert, and there'll be a button there for Power BI. Once the add-in is in your slide, all you need to do is bring the URL of a report page or a bookmark that you want to add to the presentation. You can also start with a Power BI report that you wish to use. In that case, just copy the URL you want to use into an existing presentation. Or you can go straight to Power BI and open in PowerPoint from there. Once the report is loaded into the presentation, it is live and interactive, even when you show the presentation as a slideshow. You can use all of Power BI's slice and dice capabilities and really engage your audience on the power and insights that you have in the slide. With Power BI storytelling, you'll be able to respond to questions and feedback raised during the presentation, and you'll be able to look back at a different view of the data by making new data selections to create more relevant views. So we've all been there where you're in a presentation and somebody asks you a complicated question and you're not quite sure because the data isn't completely there in front of you. So instead of saying that you'll have to go back and find that information, you can then go straight into your report while doing the presentation and find the information that people are looking for. So whether that's just looking at a slightly different view, extending the time range that you're looking at, you've got all those different options there available within the meeting itself. The other positive of this is that the data in your slides is always fresh, so you can trust it with any decision you need to make. So all of your up-to-date report information will be within that PowerPoint presentation, and it just gets the right information in front of the right people so you can all make the correct decision going forward. I've got a quick question on this one. You mentioned the Power BI is interactive. Does that mean the viewers can tweak the Power BI without affecting what the presenter is showing? No, for this one, this will be just the presenter can adapt the report that is showing at that time. This one's not quite got the completely collaborative capabilities that we talked about earlier with the interactive Excel, although looking at everything else Microsoft are doing with all these collaboration tools, I'm sure that's the route they will be going down so that everyone can just edit the view as they wish and see the report that they want to see. But at the moment, with this Power BI integration, it will just be the presenter that's showing the report that will be able to tweak the information that's shown during the meeting itself. Okay, so as I said, that is now available. So if it's not already in the menu ribbon, just click in the add-in section and it should be there for you to add. And it's pretty simple. As soon as you click that button, you'll get the pop-up just allowing you to drop in the report that you want to use. Okay, let's look now at Viva Engage. So Microsoft continues to add more modules to the Viva suite. In fact, just recently we talked about Viva Goals and Viva Sales, which are both coming soon. And now there is another new module which was announced at Microsoft Inspire, and it's called Viva Engage. It's an app that sits within the Microsoft Viva suite as a social platform to enable remote and hybrid workers to stay better connected. It's been designed with a Facebook-style interface that builds on the current Communities app within Teams and Microsoft 365. Viva Engage links to the existing Microsoft Viva suite, which adds it adds into other tools such as Viva Connections and Viva Topics, and will eventually extend further into Viva itself as well. It allows leaders to share relevant company news and communicate with employees, and you can also use this tool to host virtual events. You can also pin conversations and announcements with notifications within Teams. So if you're using Teams already as your main platform for sharing company updates, this is just a fresh new way of doing that. So at Bedrock at the moment, we have a dedicated Teams channel for any kind of company-wide announcements that we go to, just to check on that. So Microsoft Viva Engage it's just building on that idea of using Teams as the kind of hub of your organisation, where everyone can go to find any information that they need. So we can do that, allowing the employer themselves to share announcements, but it also allows the employees to build communities and professional networks within their work teams. So perhaps where we've lost some of that networking ability, where not everyone's in the office all the time or on the same days, it just allows people to have a bit more of a team network within Microsoft Teams itself. Everything in the Viva suite has been designed with remote or hybrid working in mind. So if we cast our eye back to some of the first announcements that were made with Microsoft Viva, which were Microsoft Viva Insights, that uses AI to monitor what you're spending most of your time on. So whether you're always stuck in meetings or you're doing a lot of work just on one-to-one calls, it allows managers to take a look at that data and effectively monitor where people's time is being spent and how they perhaps could become more effective working in the hybrid world. Will Viva Engage include notifications for announcements? Is a question I've had here. I'm not sure is the genuine answer to that one. This is a very early stage release. It has literally just been announced. We don't really have the date for when it will be completely publicly available yet. I imagine it will be notification based. So any kind of announcements that usually get put into a Teams chat within your normal Teams site, it will work in a very similar way. I imagine that you would get a notification just to say a new announcement has been added to Viva Engage. In Viva Engage, each user has a storyline, which can have topics shared to it through posts and stories. So you can really see here they are going down the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn kind of route with these story type situations. Posts can include links, files, photos and videos, and these reach followers and colleagues within Viva Connections, Outlook and Teams. When browsing to the Storylines tab, it will show you a feed of posts from recommended colleagues, and users can also share stories in the usual way with photos and videos being able to be uploaded. In August, so this is like the first sort of notification we've had of a date for release for this. In August, the Communities app for Teams will be rebranded as Viva Engage, and there will be no actions required from admins to allow that to happen, and it'll just go ahead. And they'll start dropping in elements of Viva Engage in public preview in late August, but that's the closest we've got to a full release date for that at the moment. I imagine it won't all come released at the same time, especially as we only had the notification about Viva Sales being released last month, and they were saying that for that we won't be seeing that until the end of the year. So I can't imagine this will be really super quick, but it's just an idea of where Microsoft are headed, what they want to be doing in the future, and things to start looking out for if you think this could benefit your organisation. I have to say, I'm not sure about Viva Engage in terms of whether we'll be using it as Bedrock. I think the engagement that we already built up within our own team's chats anyway is working pretty well. So I'll be interested to see how this fits in with other organisations, whether it will fit in with the work we're doing at Bedrock, and how Microsoft plan to get people to start using it as well. Okay, so that's the updates for today. I just wanted to briefly cover the Bedrock Security Review Workshop that we're now offering. It's a one-day interactive workshop where you'll work with one of the Bedrock technical team to analyse the security features that you already have in place and find the gaping holes that you may have where attackers can still find a way in. So similar to what we're doing here with these webinars, making sure you're getting the best value out of your Microsoft 365 tools. This will be a security review to make sure that all of the security features you're already paying for are giving you the best protection. So with this review workshop, you will discover where you could be duplicating investment in cybersecurity tools that are doing the same job. You will be able to check that you're meeting the requirements for your cyber insurance policy, because there's been many horror stories out there. Many won't pay out if you don't monitor and manage your cybersecurity properly. And you'll also be able to find the cracks in your technology environment that leave you open to attack. So we have a limited number of spaces for these each month. We do keep them very limited because it does take quite a lot of our team's time just to do a full review. So if you are interested in this, we'll be sending out emails about it, and you can also get in touch if you think it's something that could benefit your organisation. Okay, I think I covered some of the questions as we went along, but I have seen a few more coming in, and please do feel free to add any other questions you may have if you've got anything that you want to know. Let's have a look. Andrew's asked, how does the camera, the AI-driven cameras, how do they compare to Microsoft Poly? They're all much of a muchness. So there's a lot of hardware out there now that can help you with hybrid meetings. Some of them are by Microsoft themselves. There's lots of external companies providing these kind of cameras as well. We have one at Bedrock called the Owl, which sits in the middle of our meeting table and just makes sure it zooms in on whoever's talking at one particular time. So there are a huge number of options out there, which is kind of why I didn't want to cover any specific ones within this webinar, just because it really depends on what you're looking for with the camera hardware. Next one. Oh, Microsoft Polls. We've got another question about Microsoft Polls. How does the forms compare to polls? I'm guessing was the question there. So it's just a case of it being updated. So forms is being updated to become Microsoft Polls, and the same functionality will be there. So you'll be able to make up any polls or forms that you wanted to add in, and it will just have that new functionality of saving polls so you can reuse them over and over. With the camera, how did it know who each person was? It's some kind of AI magic is the answer to that. It uses the voice of whoever's talking, and manages to zoom in on whoever's the focus of that meeting at that point. So there's a lot of clever technology behind these cameras now, and the wide angle will always be available, and it will then also zoom in on whoever's making point at that particular time. So again, just take a look at the cameras that are out there available. Each of them have very different functionality. Just find what's best for your organisation. Okay, I think that's pretty much the end of the Q&A time. Thank you everyone for asking your questions today. Anyone that I said I'll get back to with some of the clarification, we'll do that. And if you have any other questions that you think of after the webinar, please do feel free to email us and we'll do our best to cover those for you. Just quickly before we go, I just wanted to let you know about our next What's New webinar, which will be in September. Once again, we'll be taking a look at the latest new releases from Microsoft. So register for your place now. I believe Cara's just added the link in the chat for us. So if you wanted to register for your place right now, you can do so by following the link in the published questions box. So join us again on the 8th of September, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks you very much for joining us, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.